Hello everybody and welcome back to the Prince of Persia 2008 walkthrough. It's time for us to head into the City of Light and begin our expulsion of the warrior from these realms. Now, I don't think this first one is actually that bad, or is it? Oh no, it's one of the towers.
What's up there?
The tower
Wonderful.
of Ahriman has been abandoned for a long time. I've never seen what's inside.
Well, then this is a great time for you to find out.
So I was right. I think we have 3 towers, all of which require backtracking, but you only have to kind of go up and down twice instead of 3 times, which is certainly an improvement on what we had to suffer in the Royal Palace. But thankfully, kind of getting up isn't going to take us that long. These are reasonably speedy levels, all things considered.
I think we can do this.
It is going to be the light seed collecting, which is going to take us more time, but then that's pretty much always the case. It's also in the City of Light that we basically run into all 3 of our
We should be able to reach the ledge on that
hazards, I suppose, because we have the wonderful demon moth butterfly bug things which chase you about. You have the corrupted air, you have puzzles, and platforming challenges abound.
You did it.
Abound aplenty.
I did it.
I gave you moral support.
So, yeah, the City of Light is arguably the hardest area to get through, because you have to deal with kind of everything. But then, if you come to this last, then it's really not that difficult on the whole, because you have gotten used to how this game works.
Any suggestions?
We need to find a way to go up.
Thanks. Thanks for that.
It was very informative, Alika. So, here we have another puzzle. This one's not that difficult in the grand scheme of things. Essentially, what you need to do is twist it so that the circle in the middle allows you to wall run over to the other side, at which point you can drop the grates, I suppose they are, and then you can twist them to twist the circles to form a nice little way up. Also, don't do what I've kind of just done, because you need to make a neat path up, and what I've just done isn't gonna work, basically. Essentially, you just need to get the 2 things in exactly the same position, and then it'll work perfectly fine when you move the 2 of them in unison, because they'll both end up in the positioning of a upper right quadrant forming, instead of kind of not working out. I hope that made sense. It might not, but you can see how it works. You basically form a nice neat line all the way up, and that means that you can get to the top, which is where the warrior is going to be waiting for us in one of his weird types of battles.
In the face of Ormaz.
How did he get up here?
Who cares? Push him back down.
So, the way to defeat the warrior here is to push him over the edge. It's exactly the same as last time, but obviously
Skills are coming in handy.
it's slightly more difficult because you've only got... it's slightly more difficult because bits of the arena are walled off, which causes you a bit of grief. But that happens.
Ormaz's power.
I fight for life.
Where are they? Your people are
Now-
gone.
I will leave what I'm about to talk about until we have defeated the warrior and gotten into the lights he's collecting, because it's probably more fitting there, even though it's nothing that I'm particularly expert in at all in the slightest. But
Are you alright?
it's gonna give us something to talk about.
Whitey, get out of this place.
Now, as you can see, the warrior is a stubborn old bugger.
Come on, Alika.
You're generally safest using Alika to get him down, because she has the greater reach, and that is very, very, very helpful. Also, you can't be successful on that quick time event if Alika is down, which is what I realised right then. But yeah, the warrior decides to use the ridiculous amount of quick time events against you as well. And to be perfectly honest, it's arguably more frustrating because you can't physically damage him normally anyway. So the only thing that the quick time events do is prolong the fight of being able to get him to the edge enough.
You want to heal this place before he finds a way back up here?
That would be a good idea, I think.
Tell me more about this place.
There isn't time. We should go on.
So yay! First one of the area complete, and that makes me rather happy because we are edging ever closer towards the finale of this game, which I do really like. I will explain more why I like it when we get there, as I keep saying with a lot of things.
Hey, Ahriman! This isn't your tower anymore. This is my tower. Can I have my own tower? You know, maybe with an inscription? Nothing too fancy, just Tower of the Savior of the City of Light. Oh, and a few priestesses dedicated to its upkeep. And mine.
If you stay, all this can be yours.
Yeah, sure it can.
Let's go and save your city.
I have to say the prince is getting a little bit cocky there, but I'll forgive him. He is voiced by Nolan North after all, so that's fine by me.
How do we get down?
We go straight down.
So, yes, we just need to pick up our light seeds and begin the first of our 2 descents.
When I die, I want to come back in a place exactly
But
unlike
thankfully this descent is slightly more involving than the ones in the Royal Palace, because you're kind of constantly jumping and manoeuvring rather than just merely sliding. Now, what I was going to talk about, and I'm kind of only gonna glaze over it because I'm using a source which I wouldn't, well, which isn't necessarily completely trustworthy, but which for the purposes of providing a general overview may be as good as I'm gonna get, considering how much I am not an expert on Persia and Iran. Basically, the area has thousands of years of recorded history, and because of its unchanging geographic and subsequently geopolitical condition, Iran has a long, varied and checkered military culture and history, from times when it's been triumphant and unchallenged to some near catastrophic defeats. And really, I think it's probably best to start with the Achaemenid era, which is 559 BC to 330 BC. And basically it's kind of the first of the Persian empires to rule over significant portions of what is called Greater Iran.
Ahriman doesn't stand a chance.
The empire apparently possessed a national army of roughly 120,000 to 150,000 troops, plus several tens of thousands of troops from allies.
Every seed helps us.
And usual tactic, apparently, in the early period of the empire was to form a shield wall that archers could fire over, which sounds remarkably like the Roman tortoise shell. And the bow was the most widely used weapon of the Persians, so that was important. Also, that period is essentially the war, is when the wars with Greece happened, or at least some of the most famous wars with Greece. It's basically the setting for 300 and those films, because Xerxes is a real historical figure, which is quite cool. Then, skipping forward a little bit, you end up with the Parthian Empire, which, if my memory is serving me correctly, was well known for a military tactic where the archers fired at their opponent whilst retreating at full gallop, so that you ended up killing a lot of people, and it acted as a sort of feigned retreat and had devastating effects. It's actually something that's brought up in, or referenced in, Shakespeare's Cymbeline, which is one of the plays that nobody has ever heard of, because it's one of the late plays, and in general, people don't really like the late plays as much. I'd say the only one that's really remained somewhat popular is The Tempest, and that's about it. Then you get to the Sassanid era, which basically restored Achaemenid military organisations, but retained the Parthian cavalry model, and apparently that served them well. Then there was an Islamic conquest, which led to the decline of Zoroastrianism, so that is why it doesn't really exist anymore.
What's the catch?
And
This city can be mine. What's the catch?
then, yeah, that's about all I think I'm going to go into, because that's probably the only stuff that is physically useful to us. The rest of it is just normal history, which you may want to know, but you can go into that if you like in your own time. So I guess the next thing that I'm gonna talk about, I don't want to rush myself, but there was actually a Lego set of Prince of Persia. So it was released in 2010, and there are only 6 available sets, and basically it was based off of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, the film, which I will probably go into in the next part or so. Basically, around early 2009, Disney and Lego announced a multi-year plan to produce Lego sets based on Disney films, and 3 were announced: Cars, Prince of Persia, and Toy Story. So to coincide with the release of the new film, Lego released a short Lego-based animated film based on the events of the movie that was narrated by Jake Gyllenhaal, who plays the Prince, or as he's called in the film, Prince Dastan. He narrates that. And basically, the 6 sets were Desert Attack, The Ostrich Race, A Fight for the Dagger, Quest Against Time, Battle of Alamut, and then there was an apparent Brickmaster exclusive thing. I don't know what that was. And basically involved all the characters and things. But I find that rather bemusing that there was a Lego set of Prince of Persia, because that doesn't really happen all that often. I mean, I know for a fact that there was a real heavy desire to have Lego Legend of Zelda, because Lego made that, oh god, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a thing where you can submit Lego idea designs and have them voted on, and if you gets enough votes, then it'll go to the people at Lego. They'll look over it, and if they can make it, then they will. Which is really awesome, but the unfortunate reason why we can't get Lego Legend of Zelda is because the minifigures would be far too complicated and require far too many unique pieces, which they just can't make. Or at least it's not worthwhile to make. But other than that, I'd say Prince of Persia probably classifies as one of the only video game franchises to get Lego figures, which is pretty damn cool, really. Now, the slightly annoying thing about this area is that you have to go all the way around to be able to get the other, well, to be able to get on the way back. I mean, it kind of happens everywhere, but this one is a particular case of there is no way to get all the light seeds without doing this.
Are you keeping count of how many I've finished?
Let's go on.
I most certainly am not, but there certainly probably was somewhere counting it whilst... oh gosh, well, when the game originally came out, I'm sure there were people counting how many enemies there were. Lesser than there would have been probably prior to, or like on prior games, because obviously this game isn't, as I have said many times before, the most well-loved of Prince of Persia games, so it's not one of the ones that people would pay a lot of attention to in terms of figuring out everything. Although saying that, there isn't really a whole lot here to figure out. So, yeah.
This way.
Now, I will say, I'm quite I do quite like this area. I mean, I don't quite know what it is, because, I mean, it's kind of a relatively large amount of disparate things, with corruption sitting beneath you. But it's a nice little, it's another nice little variant, because obviously we've had the more ruinsy type area, we've had the mechanical, sciencey area, we've had the rich and slightly excessive palace, and now we get into the place where they lived. It's a city. Even though, saying that, towers, not exactly the most city-like of places, although, in saying that, there's only one part of the City of Light which is called the City of Light. The rest of it is towers. So there's Tower of Ahriman, Tower of Mars, and the Queen's Tower, I believe. So, yeah. I think it's also kind of at this point that you also get to see even more development in the relationship between the Prince and Alaka, which is always really awesome.
There you go.
And I am very, very, very glad that I defeated him before he spawned, because I just get fed up fighting those guys. They just kind of waste time, and I really dislike things that waste time. It's awful, but it's true. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only person who dislikes anything that is a ridiculous waste of time. I mean, it's basically why I edit things in my walkthroughs and playthroughs, and why I know a lot of other people do too. Because the worst thing, the worst feeling you can have after watching a video or playing through a game is that you wasted your time. So you just need something that just seems worthwhile. And now that we have got all the light seeds in the Tower of Ahriman,
Anywhere else?
I believe we're heading off to the Queen's Tower to sort out another fertile ground, and
Grounds are there? Where should we head next?
yes, and to answer the Prince's question, we have 3 fertile grounds left. Let's do this.